Next up, we have working with groups. You can combine objects into groups so that the objects are treated as a single unit. And by doing this, you can move or transform a number of objects without affecting their individual attributes, and it can also make selecting our artwork easier. Let's fit everything in the window, so Option Command 0. Make sure I'm an illustrator here. Option Command 0. There we go. Both artboards are being shown, both fitting in the window. And then from our select menu, from our select menu, we're going to select that bamboo selection that we previously made. And this is all individual pieces, but because we saved the selection where they were all chosen, they show up as one unit, but they aren't really. We could move them apart. To actually group them and make them behave as one single unit, the quick action over here at the bottom of our property panel, one of the quick actions is to group them. And you're going to click on that button, and now they're grouped. Probably doesn't look any different, but when we actually click away to deselect everything, and then pretend you were just hoping to choose this bottom piece. If you click on it, you're actually going to get the whole group. And that's the point. You wanted to group them. If you wanted to ungroup them, you can use the quick action button over here. You can also do that under the object menu, group and ungroup. The shortcut is Command G to group and Shift Command G to ungroup. So there's several ways of doing this. These buttons are quite convenient. All right. Now that we have this selected and we know it's a group, we're actually going to drag it from Artboard 1 onto Artboard 2. So just drag it over here and drop it over here on our first artboard, and we'll see that it actually moved from one to the other. We now want to align this with the top of our artboard. So since it's already selected, we can come over to our alignment panel in properties. On this first one, we want to make sure that align to the artboard is selected. And then we're going to choose vertical align top. And again, if it's not understanding it's to the artboard, you might need to click that again like I just did. But it should align it to the vertical top of our artboard. So there it is. Then we actually want to stretch this down all the way to the bottom. So we are going to, with our selection tool, we're going to grab this lower right bounding point, and we're going to hold down Shift as we do this, and that's going to keep it proportionate as we drag. So drag it down to the bottom of the artboard, and when you get to the bottom, let go of your mouse and then your Shift key. You have to do it in that order. And the reason that we held Shift was so it stretched proportionately. It got wider as it got taller. If we weren't to do that and we pulled on this, notice I can make it as thick or as thin as I want. It's not stretching proportionately. So always remember to hold the Shift key when you drag and bring something proportionately. Now, interestingly, this is how it behaved 2 versions ago. You've always had to hold the Shift key to do things proportionately. In the last version of Illustrator, they changed it so that the default behavior, just pulling, would be proportionate. And if you wanted it to be skinny or thick, you had to hold Shift. And because so many people have worked with the software for so long and they're so used to holding the Shift key, it really threw them for a loop, and evidently they went back to this. So it's kind of interesting that in the last 3 years of teaching this, it's changed. So hold Shift and you can proportionately drag this down. So now we're down, we have it placed where we want it, and we can click away to deselect. Next, we're going to learn about isolation mode. So this isolation mode lets you isolate a group so that you can easily select and edit specific objects or part of that group without having to ungroup them and go to a lot of work. So you can imagine with the fox, if we have all these different pieces and it's grouped together, by isolating, we can just work on the dark orange ears or the eyes without ungrouping everything. When you go into isolation mode, everything outside of it is going to be dimmed, grayed, and locked out so that you can't even get to it. So we're going to start with our selection tool, and we're going to drag a marquee across these 2 leaves at the top of Artboard 1, because before we did that, those are 2 separate objects. This is a leaf and this is a leaf, and I could move them independently. We've positioned them in a way that we want them to stay together as a group and be in that same order, or that same overlapping area. So now that we have them marqueed, we're going to come over to our properties panel and we're going to officially group them. So click on the group button. And now when we click away, we can no longer just select one or the other. When we select either part, we get the whole group. All right, we are going to double click on any of this, and that's going to put us into isolation mode. So double click. Notice how everything else grayed out on both artboards. The only thing we can work with is this group in isolation. We also see that in our Pathfinder up here, we see that we're working on layer 1, but we're currently isolated within a group. So everything is dimmed out but that. Now we can work on these pieces individually. So let's click on the smaller of the two leaves. And let's say we want that to be a different colored green. We're going to come over to our property panel where we have our appearance and fill, and we're going to click on the color swatch of the fill. And depending on what view you're in, if you're in the swatches or the color mixer, make sure you're in swatches. Here's a whole bunch of different colors to choose from. Just pick one of these lighter greens. I'm going to do this like yellowish color. And to get this floating window to go away, either just click somewhere else or hit the escape key on your keyboard. So we've now changed, we've isolated down to this group, and we've isolated just one piece of it and changed the color. All right, we're going to double click outside of these shapes to exit the isolation mode. Notice everything is back to full color. And our objects, our leaves are grouped again. So if we click on just one piece, we're getting both pieces, and we can see over here in our properties panel that they're a group. We can't individually move them. They are one group again, which is perfect. So by double clicking and drilling into isolation mode within a group, you can do things to the individual parts and then back out of it. So groups can also be nested, meaning you can have one group inside of another group. This is a very common technique, a great way to keep associated content together. So we're going to drag this group of leaves that we just have highlighted over here. We're going to drag it to the artboard on the left and kind of position it on the bamboo like that. So we have it over here. We want to make a nested group where these leaves and the bamboo line that we already made move together. So if we click on one and try to move it, we're going to move the bamboo and the leaves as one group. So this is already selected. We now need to hold down the Shift key and click to select our bamboo, and notice that our bounding box goes around both pieces. It's the bamboo and these leaves. The bamboo is a group, and the leaves are grouped together. So we have two groups, we have them both selected, and we're going to come over to our property panel and we're going to click on group again. That made a group with two groups inside of it. That's a nested group now. Click away to deselect, and now if we were to go over and try to select just this leaf, we can't. First of all, we're going to get both leaves because they're a group, but moreover, we're going to get the bamboo as well because we've made a nested group. If we wanted to get into isolation mode again with just our leaves, we're going to double click on just the leaves. Notice that that put us into isolation mode, and now my two different leaves are an option. We also have the bamboo as an option. All right, let's click to select the leaves. And what it's doing is saying, okay, this is a subgroup. If you want to edit these, you're going to have to break this down even further. So I would have to double click again to get into isolation mode for just this group if I wanted to change colors. I don't want to do that though. I want to take this whole group of leaves and I want to make a copy of it and paste it further down on the bamboo. So you can do Edit, Copy, or Command C, and then Edit, Paste, or Command V. And then you're going to get your second copy and you're just going to move those somewhere on the bamboo as well. To get out of isolation mode, you can click on a blank area, you can double click, or you can hit the escape key. So make sure that you're out of isolation, that nothing is grayed out, and we now see that we have this one big piece of two pieces of leaves and the bamboo that are all grouped together.